I had a call from a prospective owner client the other day, and he was telling me that he was a very successful landlord and he had properties all around the United States. He was thinking of hiring us to manage his Denver and Colorado properties. One of the questions he asked us was, now I get to choose my tenants, right? You will present me with the information and then I can choose the tenants? To which I replied, no, we actually do that on your behalf, Mr. Owner. And I explained that to him, that he would not be involved in that process. And he became irritated and he said, I work with a lot of different property management companies across the US. You're the only company I know of, you're the only company I've talked to that will not let me select my own tenants. To which I replied, you're welcome, Mr. Owner, because all those other companies are doing a great disservice to you. They should not be putting you at risk legally, allowing you to make a potentially illegal decision. And he was a little bit straightforward and we didn't end up working with the guy. But let me ask you a couple questions as you consider whether or not you're going to allow your landlord clients to have a selection process. A couple questions. Does your landlord understand? I'm asking you this question. Does your landlord understand these several things? Number one, do they understand fair housing? I'm guessing not. Do they know what the 7 protected classes are? I'm guessing not. Do they know what the penalties are for discriminating against a protected class? Probably not. Now, most landlords are going to say, hey, I'm not going to discriminate on the illegal aspects. I just want to know who's coming into my property. Don't I have a right to know who's coming into my property? And while I understand that line of reasoning, fair housing laws are very, very straightforward. When an owner or potential owner pushes us on this and says, well, I really want to make that decision, I say this, I'll tell you what, Mr. Owner, I'll go ahead and let you make that decision. I'll send you all the documentation. You can review it all and you can make that decision on your own. I just have to ask you one question first. Can you please tell me what the 7 protected classes are? Now, they of course can't tell you what they are, and most of us couldn't just spout those off at the top of our head, but we have to know those, don't we? Because what happens if you give the owner all the information and they're looking over those applications and they say something like, I see this applicant has children and this one doesn't. Is that a potential fair housing claim there? You bet it is. What if they look those over and say, I see the last name on this one is Gonzalez. Is that a potential liability, illegal issue? That's a discrimination claim. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But you don't want to put yourself in a situation where the owner is making those decisions. You as the property manager should be looking at that. How about this? Do they understand service animals? Because if that applicant has a service animal, I can just about promise you that landlord is going to shy away from approving that applicant. But we know legally we can't do that. We have to consider service animals irrelevant of the rest of the screening process. How about disparate impact? Hopefully you know what disparate impact is. If not, we've got a video on it. Watch that. But this is criminal backgrounds. We know that we as professional landlords have to be very, very cautious in how we look at criminal histories. Landlords don't know that. They just don't understand that. You, though, have to know it. You have to understand it. Your state and local laws very likely are going to add additional protected classes to the group. Ask your landlord if they know what the additional protected classes are for your state or from your landlord. Do they know that you're regulated by HUD? Do they know that HUD watches you? Do they know that HUD may be shopping you? And if you're giving the landlord the option on making those decisions, to some extent HUD doesn't care. Who's HUD going to come after in a potential claim? You, as the landlord. You do not want that to happen. So the answer to all those questions is the obvious no. Your landlord doesn't understand those things. You understand those things. You're the professional. That is why they hired you to select that. We tell our landlords, look, you can decide if whether you want to accept pets or not. But other than that, Mr. Landlord, you really don't have a say in who we are going to approve to put into your property. Now, what you want to make sure you do is document your applicant screening process. So in that worst case scenario, if something happens, you can show how you process your applicants, whether you use a third-party screening company, whether you do it in-house, it's another conversation. But document the process so that every applicant is treated exactly the same. If you've got questions on this, reach out to us. This is a big deal, though. Do not let your owner clients make the final decision or have any say in your application screening process. That will keep you protected and it will keep your owner clients protected, which is what they hire you to do. Sometimes you have to protect them even from themselves.